And we are back.
What's up? Well, do we do ladies and gentlemen,
You
or are
can
we
do
just
it,
talking?
do whatever you want to do.
Ladies listen to it too. They
Sure.
listen to it too. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going?
All right. So we have not recorded for a little while because of the Costa Rica trip and then the lack of studio stuff. And we are recording right now. So in the event that there is any type of quality issues with video, it's because we are running Zoom over a 5G hotspot in order to make this happen. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time for quality issues. As of right now, it looks like the internet seems to be holding. I can see him fairly well. So I think we're going to be okay. We have a 16-page email. This is Midlife Crisis Part 2. I don't know if this was a Part 1 that we had read and now Part 2 has come through or what, but I have not pre-screened any of this. The emailers, the editors put in here, triggers child abuse and childhood essay with no details. So there will be abuse talk in here as a trigger warning for everybody.
Hey, before we dive into this, happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
It is that.
It is
definitely that.
it's often, I said this to someone the other day, and they were like, really? I didn't know that. And I'm like, well, yeah, usually, Pride Month, is out in the forefront, but it is in fact Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So, cheers to all my bros out there, and to all you guys. I hope you're holding up well.
I mean, it is the whole point of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Or at least for the Voice of the Broken segment of the To Be Better podcast. But
right.
All right. So I'm going to just jump in. This email starts off by saying, I wanted to say thank you two for being honest and not censoring yourselves for viewership/listeners. I really enjoy your thoughts and tangents, and I love how often they happen. There's been several episodes that have caught my attention, but season 3, episode 18, Help Midlife Crisis, felt like my soon-to-be ex-wife wrote the email. It's doubtful that it is. However, it motivated me to write in and maybe shed some light on the other half of that dynamic. Okay.
Ooh.
So, it would be crazy if it was actually his ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife.
So, I mean, yeah, because you did Voice of the Broken without a co-host for quite a while.
Yeah, well, season 3, episode 18 is To Be Better content. It wouldn't have been Voice of the Broken. Because this is like, I want to say this is episode like 26 or 27 of Voice of the Broken. So,
so this fella is thinking that his soon-to-be ex wrote in a segment.
Yep.
That was in reference to the two of them, and this is his side of the story.
Yeah, and he said, I mean, it may not have been her, but it was close enough that it would work. So he's going to give his half of the dynamic.
I mean, how interesting!
Yeah. Oh shit. We try to get people to write in all the time and have husband and wives write. If somebody ever writes into To Be Better and we get a his side, her side, it takes precedence over everything. It skips the line of Patreon. It skips the line of the email. Like, we're 6 or 7 month backlog. But that shit will get read immediately because those emails are a lot of fun to read for us, and it gives us different perspectives and a whole lot to discuss.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to write in with you and your spouse, that definitely fucking send those emails. tobebetterco@gmail.com. He then goes on to say the first real life goal, in quotations, life goal, I can remember having was to be a dad. I was the youngest of 4 on the shoulders of a single mother. I had 2 siblings from my mom's first marriage and then my brother and I from her second. My mom has, in my unprofessional and unqualified opinion, borderline personality disorder. If not borderline, some sort of, at bare minimum, she has always been a victim mindset. Had a victim mindset. We were all spread out by about 4 years, give or take a month or two. When I was probably 5 or 6, one of the earliest memories I can recall are of my mom telling me she was going to trade me for Peter. When I asked who Peter was, she told me Peter was the other little boy I had before you. He didn't listen to me and I gave him to someone else. Holy shit. What a fucked up thing to say to your child.
Yeah, no shit, man. That's 100% designed to cut. I do not get that stuff. That is taking out so much of your adult angst and feelings on a small child.
Yep.
Like, how do people not realize that they're doing that? I get the behind closed doors thing. You don't think anyone ever will, but
yeah, that still fucks up kids, though. Give me 1 second. We just got a text message that she needs to see. All right. I apologize, everybody, for the throat clearing. I am still getting over a funk.
Me too.
You want to talk about your funk?
Briefly.
All right, go ahead.
I have to go in and get checked for Lyme's disease. I spent the past 2 days completely zonked of energy. Did wake up this morning as if someone had thrown a 5 gallon bucket of water on me. My bed was completely soaked, like completely soaked. Like if I would have wrung it out, I think I could have easily got 2 gallons. I feel a lot better today. I still got some aches and some pains and stuff, but I have a strange rash behind my left knee. Um, does not look the classic tick bullseye, but they don't always look like that. The irony is I just did a video on how to avoid tick bites, but I do spend a vast majority of my time in the woods, and it's kind of inevitable. I kind of already thought that maybe I had Lyme's disease. I might just be getting it again, which sucks. Or I don't have it at all. I'm trying to think positive.
Yeah. Giving yourself all the worst case scenarios. So when something great happens, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not Lyme's disease.
Yeah. I mean, we're slowly dying, Chris. It's fine.
We are, absolutely. Every one of us is. All right. He goes on to say, the statement has always stuck with me, and the full impact of those words had on me didn't show itself until many, many years later. I learned in the moment that I was replaceable if I wasn't obedient, that I was the second. That was the second I doubted my worth for the first time. That was the second I doubted my self-worth for the first time. I now know that we all grew up in a super toxic environment, mental and sometimes physical abuse depending on the day. I learned that it was best to stay under the radar to avoid conflict at all costs. Living at home sucked. We lived on the state aid and food stamps, and unfortunately ate the same 5 meals on constant threat that some utility was going to be turned off. A past due statement looming on the fridge. My mom forced us to go to church every Sunday, or forced us to read the Bible aloud if we couldn't make it to the church. Me being the youngest, I had a unique point of view of the pattern of my siblings. When my siblings were of age to legally work or obtain a work permit, they did and began to help pay the bills, which I didn't know about until I was older. It was many years later that I really understood that they too were so wounded by the environment of our household that they were just doing what they could to survive. I'm sure similar scars were certainly left on my brothers and sisters, even if they'll never talk about them. It twisted us all, some inward where we shut down, and some outward through actions and acting out. However, growing up, we all had one thing on our mind: get the fuck out. I did have one saving grace for a time in my life, and that was my biological brother. He and I were closest in age, being only 4 years apart. We used to do everything together. We spent a lot of time at my aunt's house while my mom was at work. My aunt was my mom's sister. She was very kind, but with a microscopic fuse, which just about anything could ignite. And once it was lit, she would grab whatever was closest to her and throw it at you. I don't mean toss, I mean fucking throw. Some people don't need to have kids. My aunt's first husband raped my mom and my brother. And after her divorce from him was over, her new boyfriend's son raped me. I'm not sure if my aunt knew about the abuse going on in her home, but my brother and I were always showered with gifts and being taken out to nicer restaurants with her. As most kids at some point do, my brother made friends his age, and I was no longer included in a lot of things that they went off and did. Just like that, the only stability I had was gone. My dad wasn't really allowed to be in the picture due to my crazy ass mom. The times I did get to see him, he was an amazing dad, but the second things went astray and he started hitting the beers, he started hitting everything. There was no real safe haven for me. I watched people walking in and out of my life like gas station attendants, wondering if this would be a smooth encounter or if I needed to find the exit strategy. It was 2001 when my oldest brother had a son, to which he didn't want to be a father. My mom, who is now disabled due to back fusion, not going to plan. The back fusion not going to plan. I mean, I guess it was a botched back fusion. Decided to adopt a son to keep him within the family, which in my family tree is normal. I now took on the role of brother / caretaker when my mom was busy with whatever it was she was doing. Due to her disability check, she couldn't hold down an actual job that would deposit money into an account. So instead, she used to clean houses under the table. Great thing to do with a blown out back fusion.
I'm assuming that this adopted child is younger because he said he became caretaker.
Yeah, this is his brother's biological son that he didn't want to
Mm.
deal with. So his mom took over and he's helped raising it.
And
I,
do you remember what age this fella is at this point?
he's well, it doesn't say what age. He says he's four years older than he is. So however old he was at this point, the brother's 4 years older than him.
So more than likely, he's probably 14 to 16 at this point
I don't know.
because his brother's old enough to have children. I'm going to assume he's 18 to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yep. With her plethora of painkillers, it didn't seem to phase her much. I think it was 3 years later, my oldest brother again had another child to whom he didn't want to be a father, and again, my mom adopted my little sister. Due to my mom and her lack of remaining payment of the rent, the landlords never let us stay more than a year at any particular house. It's a sad statement, but I probably moved more than a lot of army brats and their parents combined by the time I was 18. So all of this happened while he was a minor.
Yeah. There could be positives to being a caretaker to a child at such a young age. Like, my youngest brother, Silas, I think he's like 14, maybe 15 years younger than me, something like that. Everyone used to think it was me and my older sister's kid. My sister was just old enough to drive and stuff, and mom would be working and things like that. We would take him to the store with us and everything. And it was funny. Everyone was always like, wow, you guys are really young to have a child. Well,
Yeah.
it's not our child. It's our younger brother. But the age gap definitely provided, that stream of thought for people who were witnessing it. But it did teach me a lot of things at a very like young age. It taught me to be very patient. Children will do that to you for sure. Like they're button pushers. They're figuring out the life around them. Once they figure out a button, oh, when I cry, I receive this,
Right.
or when I act out, I get this, or if I just become such a little shit, then that it becomes easier just to give me what I want than, but there was a lot of other positives outside of the negatives, but it really did teach, patience and so it could be a good thing. And he started this out by saying his one place in life he wanted to be a father. We don't know if he is yet, but it seems like at a young age he got his first taste at it.
Yeah, that definitely did. He then wrote on to write, I was overweight as a kid, and with moving as much as I did, the bullying was nonstop. Thank God I wasn't on social media back then. I would have become a statistic of suicide. By the time I was 13 or 14, my brother bullied me the harshest. It was also around this time that my mom sent him to private school. It's crazy that she was able to afford to send him to private school, but not able to afford to keep a roof over your head for a year at a time. So she somehow sent both of us to private school, but ended up taking me out due to it being too expensive. He was the cool kid, basketball team, loads of friends. My mom would always make sure he could go to the same high school no matter where we ended up moving to. She went to all of his games and even the out-of-state tournaments. The true golden child. I was the tag-along kid fighting every day to get a little bit of what I felt like was love. The love and affection that I craved as a kid was always conditional, and the goalpost would always move. Broken promises, and I found myself understanding the pecking order of love in my family dynamic.
Oh, there really shouldn't be.
No, there shouldn't. It sounds to me like she viewed this kid as the ticket out of poverty. If he was really good at basketball and is going to games and is actually playing and doing that thing, she might have seen this as a way for her to, ride his coattails into financial success.
Kind of
But
like Usher's mom.
is that a thing for Usher?
Well, Usher's mom signed the paperwork to allow. Wait, is this where I have to say allegedly? Is
Allegedly.
this allegedly? But for a while I was looking at the Diddy trials and all sorts of stuff until I figured it was just kind of some I don't know, a way to keep people distracted. Like one of the things was Usher at like 13 or something, his mom signed over custodial like guardianship
Hmm.
to this guy, and it was, I mean, the kid had a voice, and there was promise and of riches and stuff. And I mean, I can't imagine being like, yeah, like take my son and do this. It'd be like, no, I'll bring him,
Right.
And you could do whatever you planned on doing with me there in the room, stranger. Like
Yeah.
especially nowadays, knowing of the warped nature of Hollywood.
Right. Well, that wasn't a
You
thing in
know,
the 90s.
yeah. But I mean, the same thing happened with Bieber.
Yep.
Bieber actually got signed into Usher's custody,
Wow.
and then Usher signed temporary custody over to the Diddler. It's just yeah. But I guess I get what you're saying. Very well could have been monetization
Yep.
at the core of the treatment of the golden child.
Yep. He then went on to write, I was around the same age when I first remember meeting my aunt and her family from my dad's side. We met at a theme park with my dad and had a great time. Somehow I was allowed to go visit her for 2 weeks that summer. Her house was in the north woods of Wisconsin, only about an hour and a half south of the UP of Michigan. I can't adequately word the feeling I had when I stepped outside of the car for the first time. It was like for once in my life I was safe. My brother couldn't torment me. I wasn't everyone's caretaker. I didn't have to cook or clean. Every meal was delicious. The sleep was like none I'd ever had, and the peace of nature all around you filled you up with the energy of the forest. I never wanted to leave, but of course I had to come back to reality. On January 1st, go ahead.
I was going to say forest energy for the win, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Just watch out for ticks.
Yeah. On January 1st, 2007, I got the crushing news that my dad committed suicide. I had just turned 16 in November, and even though I had never had a real relationship with him or the real opportunity to talk to him, it crushed me. It was something I had dreamed of that at least one person could understand, and who better than my dad. After my dad passed, my mom decided she couldn't live in Illinois, and since my older brother was also out of high school and moved out on his own, we picked up and moved in with my grandparents for a short while down in Tennessee. I say short while due to another argument breaking out between my grandparents and my mom, which resulted in us being kicked out. My mom found a campground that was also a state park. Then for a few months is how we lived. I was fortunate to have my own tent and not have to share a pop-up camper with my mom and little brother and sister. It was nearing the beginning of the new school year when my mom found a small shack of a house with no insulation outside of the siding, plywood on drywall. I would get so cold in there that my mom would leave the oven on and crack it open a little warm to warm the house like a furnace. A lot of people did that when we were little. It happened it happened everywhere in the South. Like that was a very normal thing, especially if you were poor.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I remember the day we finally got our pellet stove, and it was a godsend, man. But the oven was the mecca of warmth for a very long time. That and a couple cheap fans to blow the hot air around.
Yeah.
Not to throw shade, it is a symbol of poverty. Like it really is, you know, like, but
it works.
You are not alone on that though, brother.
Yeah. Since my mom pretty much stranded us in Tennessee with no real income, I got a job and started giving money to my mom to help with bills. In return, I would get the 01 Chevy Malibu once I graduated. I started school and finally made a couple of friends. I met one of my best friends in my shop class. We'll call him Tommy. He used to race mountain bikes and shoot trap for school. Even made the junior Olympic team. Everyone who knew him piled over at his house as if he was there, even if he wasn't. He was also one of the best ATV drivers I had ever seen, to the point we were all used to riding with him and going mudding or off trail. The trust was so high when he was driving, helmets weren't a thing when we were riding. One night in late January, we decided to have a bonfire on a mountain, and we would need his grandma's car to haul the wood and extra people we couldn't fit on the ATV. Two of my best friends and myself were on the ATV heading to his grandma's house way faster than we should have been that time of night, and we hit a small dip. Flinging all three of us down a steep forest ravine, Tommy hit the base of his head on a boulder, killing him instantly.
Ooh.
My other friend also had a fair amount of life-altering wounds. I ended up breaking most of the right side of my body, requiring several surgeries to put me back in place. During this time, I knew I lost my friend, and the painkillers they had numbed more than my body. My self-destructive measures peaked when I joined the Army 6 months post-accident. I knew I wanted to be a part of something more than myself, but I also wanted to die with some sort of honor. Somehow I made it through my training as a cavalry scout, and shortly after completing it, the unit I was assigned to deployed to Iraq. About a month prior to my deployment ending, I was called home. I called my mom and brother since our relationship, in my mind, was better, letting them know that the dates that I'd be arriving home and even offering to pay for their way to be there. When I got back to the States and stepped off the plane, I saw the family cheering and looking for their loved ones. As I searched through the crowd, I soon realized my family wasn't there. I got my barrack keys and a small basket with some of necessities and drank myself to sleep. My drinking got worse and worse as time went on. I wanted to be one of the guys and feel accepted into the group, but I never felt like I was. The only way I would be one of them was to drink and keep up with them. That's crazy to think that somebody has that type of mindset. Because your ability to connect with other human beings has nothing to do with your ability to handle your liquor. There's a social
Element?
A social element. I kept wanting to say stigma for some reason. There's a social element to making friends, and if you are not a social person and you can't read social cues, you're going to struggle with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people, social cues and things go out the window whenever you're drinking.
Yeah.
Like, so it kind of becomes like a neutralized field, and ultimately people have a lot of excuses for their actions and their awkwardness and everything. Oh, I was just drinking. Like, I could see how people would feel comfortable or loose. The problem is that at a certain point it becomes incredibly destructive.
Yeah.
Especially if you are one that thinks that the only time that you can engage in a public setting, is whenever you are drinking. Like, it becomes synonymous with you being wasted.
Yeah. I understand having a drink to like calm your nerves, like a single drink that you sip on just to kind of take the edge off, but it's a single drink. It's not a buzz. We're not getting drunk. Like, it is a something to hold on to while you're having social conversation to keep your lips wet. Like, it's not, I don't know. Yeah. I have a very hard time with alcoholism because of my family, but even with when I was drinking whiskey still and I had my whiskey collection, I would only allow myself 3 drinks a week. And the reality is I would go 4 or 5 months sometimes without a drink because I don't crave it. It's not something that I want to be a dependent of.
Right. What happened to all those fine bottles of whiskey that you
sold the entire collection? Yeah.
Yeah.
After the ayahuasca ceremony, I was like, I don't want this. I don't want it. I don't want it in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaw dropping to some, unless you've spent time in the alcoholic trenches.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd asked you on a previous episode if you kept that around as like almost a testament that you could turn your back to it and walk past it every day without craving it or wanting it, and you said, no, I just have it, and I think it's funny that as time has gone on, that, I guess, what would you call it? Luxury or just like a collection or
it was a luxurious collection. I had probably $35,000-$40,000 worth of liquor in here. But it took me almost a decade to collect all that whiskey. So I still have a couple bottles. There's one on the shelf behind me.
Yeah, I see it.
But it's that bottle's got a memory to it, and I'll probably never drink it. I don't know, dude. I had alcohol problems. Like I used to take Vicodin every night and drink on top of it. That was my thing for a long time. And when I got sober, I was sober for like 12 or 13 years. And when I broke sobriety, it was a celebration with somebody, and like I drank, and I didn't crave it the next morning when I woke up. I wasn't like, oh, I need to get drunk. I just had a shot, and I was able to go right back to not wanting to drink because I didn't allow myself to get inebriated. Like, I didn't get drunk from it. I think I've been drunk maybe 3 times in the last 25 years. Wow, so, you know what I mean? So it's not like a need or a want. It's always been a celebratory thing, but I don't know, man. I think that there's a whole lot of ugly that comes from a bottle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. If I, the question of, hey, do you have that giant collection there behind you as a testament of walking past it every day and like not needing any of that, and being able to dust it off of your shoulder, comes from someone who struggled with vodka, my drink of choice. If I had $40,000 worth of vodka sitting behind me and I could walk past it and not touch it, especially if it was like high class, stuff, that would be a massive testament. Like, to me, that would be the reason I kept it there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. It would be drank.
Right. But if you have a $1,000 bottle or $1,000 bottle of whiskey or $1,000 bottle of vodka, you're not drinking that all the time. Like, that's a sparingly thing because it costs so much to buy the bottle. And all
Yeah.
of my collection was rare bottles. Like I had bottles that were limited release that only I made like 30,000 bottles of it. So like I'm not drinking those. Those were more for show than for drink. But I also did have whiskey that my friends would drink when they came over and played poker. I don't know, man. I don't need it. I don't need to have my emotions fucked with from a depressant. And alcohol is a depressant. So
Yeah.
I'm good enough at being depressed on my own. I don't need any help.
Yeah. Feel that.
He then wrote, I got out of the military and worked as a server until I got old enough to work as a bartender. I was in several relationships, but never for very long. Understandable looking back on it because most of them ended due to my insecurities. I met my soon-to-be ex-wife at a bar when I was living with my brother after the military. There was no relationship at that time, but my brother also met his wife on the same night. It turned out they were roommates. My brother pursued a relationship with his wife from that day forward, where I was still quite wild and free. Fast forward a couple years to my brother's rehearsal dinner, where she was a bridesmaid and I was one of the best men. We started talking again and decided to start dating shortly after. She had a home near St. Louis, a good job, and was in college to pursue her master's degree. Due to an alcohol-fueled argument between myself and my roommates, I needed to find a new place to live, and she helped me move the very next week. We had a true passion and love for one another. She had let me know that she had been sexually assaulted at some point before me, but she never told me any details of when or how, nor was she going to push on a subject, nor was I going to push on a sensitive subject. I figured it would come in time. At last, I finally found.
What do you think about that?
If somebody tells you they've been abused, I don't think you really need the details.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, I mean, I've been abused. That's one of those things that like you don't, the details don't really matter. They might to some to relive that for some reason or the fact of the matter is you were in a situation that was out of your control. You couldn't defend yourself or make it stop. And that's traumatic for everybody. Nobody wants to be, incapable of keeping themselves safe.
Yeah.
So
that person is just letting you know, and then in time, like, do you think the intent will be to let you know further, or just not let you know anymore, like at all? Like,
well, I mean, it would depend on when the conversation was brought up. Like if things were starting to get hot and heavy, and there was a pause button hit because something happened that triggered a thought of the abuse, then I think there needs to be a discussion had, especially in a serious relationship, so that those situations or the steps that triggered that like memory doesn't happen again. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I think
sure.
I think the situation matters. Did I unplug? I did. Right. He said, at last I finally found my person who loves me for me. We lived together a little over a year as we planned our wedding and invited our families. To which my biological brother told me he wouldn't be my best man because it was too expensive, but went on vacation to Mexico a month later. After this, okay, so like maybe that Mexico thing was something that he had saved for a long time.
Yeah, I have conflicting thoughts about that too.
So do I. I would rather go to Mexico than go to a wedding. Why? I mean, I get it. This is your special day, and you want people there, but like Mexico.
Yeah, right? But it also shows that when these plans were being made, to, have the wedding, there must have not been that much communication.
Right.
Like, because otherwise you would have gotten a hold of your best man. And this isn't the cast shade. I'm just trying to, kind of balance a lot of this is trying to disarm a lot of the hurt that we have as people. He probably worked his ass off, got to the point where he could go to Mexico, booked that, and then you could have came along and been like, "Hey, will you be my best man at the wedding?"
Right.
And he probably hurt like hell too, because he's like, "Wow, you want me to be my best man? I can't even go." But if you would have called me best man, or groom to the best man, I would have told you, "Hey, how about you just book that for the following week, and I'll be able to go."
Right.
Yeah,
definitely could have been communication. I also would like to point out that it's not expensive to go to Mexico.
Yeah. Pesos.
Right. Our dollar there is way more than theirs, and depending on where you are, getting there is not expensive. We flew to Costa Rica for $240.
Did you?
Yeah, it's cheap as fuck. We upgraded the tickets, but like the initial ticket was only $240 a person.
What was the flight time?
4 hours.
Shit.
Yeah, so it's shorter flight than going to Vegas and cheaper.
I should have went.
Yeah, you should have. You should have went. You'd had a fucking blast. You'd had a blast. We're going to Bali now. We're doing Greece next year, and then right after we leave Greece, we're flying to Bali, and we're gonna spend 7 days in Bali doing like water temples and fucking medicine and like
Bali. Where the fuck is Bali?
Indonesia.
Oh shit.
Yep.
That's a long ass flight.
That is definitely a long ass flight. It's cheap as fuck to go though. That trip is only $2,000 a person. It's $19.99 a person.
And it covers everything.
It covers most everything. You still got to cover your flight, but it covers a lot of your food. I think 7 meals are included, 7 breakfasts, like breakfast every day is included, and then a couple of extra meals are included with it. But when we went to Thailand, we lived like a king for like $500. She got a full body massage, deep tissue, Thai, milk bath, and we got room service every day that we were in the hotel. It was only $500.
Yeah.
So, and it's just as cheap to be in Bali or Vietnam. So we want to go to Vietnam too, but everything in time.
I'd be side-eyeing a lot of the single, like gangly looking guys there in Thailand. I've heard a lot of guys go there to shop for wives.
Depends on where you go.
Yeah.
Depends on where you go. The passport bro thing is for real. That's super big in the Philippines right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought the same thing about Portland for a while because then, a lot of news was like showing that Portland was just this shitty, shithole of a place. And then I go there and I was really kind of shocked, man. The community that pulls together there, which I think this is kind of a degenerating cycle, but they make sure to plant like all sorts of like wild edibles along their fence lines for the homeless and, which I think feeds the migration of homeless. Show up there.
Yeah, dude, but still like that, and that needs to be something that's done everywhere. That's like that in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That if you have the ability in the soil to plant things like that, why wouldn't you?
Well, a lot of cities have regulations for pest control. They say that, you have a bunch of apple trees, you have a bunch of fruit bearing trees or fruit bearing bush, and then next thing you know, you have an increase of raccoons and wildlife, and it becomes kind of like a lot of varmint like running around. That's at least the justification of it.
Bro, I live in the woods. I'm surrounded. So I have one house that I can see from my house, from my front yard, but I'm 360 surrounded by woods. Other than that, I have raccoons everywhere. We have fucking armadillos and possums and all kinds of shit all over our property. Who gives a shit? Just leave them alone. As long as they're not getting in your house, don't feed them. Don't intentionally feed them. Strap your fucking garbage cans down. You're golden.
Yeah, but to finish that thought, whenever I went to Portland, I was like, man, this is gonna be a shit show. And there was 2 or 3 streets that seemed to be kind of like sanctioned off, and part of it was Chinatown, and granted, it was bad. I think that's where most of the footage is coming out that shows The Walking Dead. People, essentially sleep or dead on their feet. From doing all sorts of drugs and stuff, but they'd have you believe that it's this like
entire
just
city.
wretched, like one of the, layers of hell in the inferno. But, I was pleasantly surprised. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful place with a rich community and strong community value, but they're just like anywhere. There's some places you probably shouldn't go.
Yeah. All right, so back to this. He says, at last I finally found my person who loves me for me. We lived together for over a year as we planned our wedding and invited our families to which, okay, that we already read that. Just scroll. Due to my, let's see. After the ceremony, my mom made very cold statement during the mother-son dance that put permanent distance between us. She said, this day is almost perfect. I said, almost. She replied, your brother could have been here. She knew I invited him multiple times. It's a shitty thing to say. Why? Just shut the fuck up. Like, what? How hard is it to just bite your tongue and let somebody have the day? Like, this is, your weddings are supposed to be one of the most important days of your life. It is one of the most. I
would have fired back with, it could have been perfect, and I could have just not invited your ass.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine saying that to my mom because she's awesome, but
Yeah.
like in this situation, bud, fire back. I
It
mean, I guess
felt
with the permanent distance that's formed, you did,
right.
but god damn,
It
dude.
felt perfect until you opened your mouth, Mom.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. The golden boy.
Yeah.
I really hope he doesn't hate his brother,
There's
you know,
animosity there.
for sure. But I hope it's not, I hope it hasn't developed into full blown like hatred or anything like that, because a lot of that galvanizing of him on a pedestal, it wasn't by anybody but this woman who's saying this type of shit to you at your wedding, homie.
Right.
You know,
He
just
said,
aim it where it needs to go.
right. He said, due to my lack of skills that are useful outside of the military, I got some part-time jobs until I finally got a full-time position making okay money as a shop manager at a tire shop chain. We drank in excess until we found out we were expecting. She stopped and I didn't completely. But I slowed down. I left my job where I was working 50 to 60 hours a week at the tire shop, instead working the standard 40 installing cable internet. The notion of fatherhood was terrifying. I never had an example of what a father was, but I had plenty of examples of what a father wasn't. I tried to support my wife as best as I could once our daughter got here in 2017 by feeding her, changing diapers, giving her baths, taking her on walks, the whole gambit. It's called
Have this guy come out and do your internet.
called fatherhood. Yeah, no shit. I should have internet by Friday. They're saying the guy that was out on the property said Friday, Monday at the absolute latest, but we don't have the actual box here yet. So until we have the box, it doesn't matter if the internet's run to the house or not. So
that's one of the sacrifices you make living out in the country.
yep. He said, I will be the first to say motherhood is and always will be something that's unknown to men and should be respected. I wanted to give her the time to rest or pump without the baby. We had decided before she was born that she would be a stay-at-home mom due to the cost of childcare full time. Why spend 1 month of us working to pay for somebody else to raise her child? I agree. Childcare prices are no joke. I also agree. Anyway, during her time at home, she decided to continue the pursuit of her degree when she wasn't taking care of our daughter, which I have always supported. When I came home, I would always try to take something off her plate, regardless of how tired I was. This is normal relationship life shit. You guys are supposed to do this for each other. So good for you that you guys were working as a team. When my daughter was about 3 months old, I had patched things up with my old roommates and asked if she would be okay if I went up there for a weekend to hang out with them. She said it was fine. I drove up the 4 hours to Chicago and hung out all day. The night I got up there, we ended up going to the bar. Since I had cut back on my drinking and this was my first time out with my friends in years, to say the least, I drank more than I should have. I don't remember leaving the bar, and the next thing I remember was I was at my old roommate's place on their couch. It was about 4 a.m. and still feeling rough from the night prior. I checked my phone and saw tons of missed calls and messages, all from my wife. I immediately called her and asked what was going on and said that she was having abdominal pain. So I got into the car and I started driving home. Before we move any further, you have an infant and you decided to go to another state and got completely shit-faced drunk to the point that it was almost 24 hours before you felt good enough to check your phone. You didn't just overdo it. You abandoned your family in that moment.
Yeah.
I would, if I went and saw somebody that I haven't seen in 20 years and they wanted to go out and have a drink, I wouldn't allow myself to get drunk if my wife was at home. I'm not going to allow my mental faculties to be so taken back that I lose control of time and space. If I am needed, I need to be able to be at least coherent enough to book a flight back home in an emergency or to get in the car and be able to drive. I have a problem with this.
Now, is this the older, wiser Chris talking, or was there a version of Chris in the past that would have definitely been on the same page as this guy? Is this like a hard lesson learned?
This is,
in your case,
I think it is a hard lesson learned, but I wouldn't have done this if I was in a relationship with someone. When I was a young man and I was drinking and doing drugs and all of that nonsense, I was single for most of it because I didn't want to answer to anybody. It was easier for me to go out and be a complete fuck up without having to worry about, anybody checking on me or being told I can't or anything else. When you say I do and you become one flesh with somebody, you owe them a lot more than you owe yourself, because you're not just responsible for them. You're responsible, or not just responsible for you, you're responsible for your family. And from my perspective is what it means to be a man. You're supposed to lead your household. And if there's an emergency, which clearly there was, she was blowing his phone up trying to get a hold of him. If she viewed that as an emergency and he wasn't there, what does that say about his ability to lead his house? I needed you and you didn't answer the phone.
Yeah, the duration in which you didn't answer as well.
Right.
And I this dude's not avoiding that accountability.
Not at all.
You know, he's putting it out there, you know, and what I you're reading it now, the seems like she actually was having a medical issue. Hopefully this is something he learned a lesson from.
Yeah.
You know, there have been times that, you know, I was with somebody and I was like, hey, I'm, you know, going to this festival. I'm going to be hand drumming, but also there's really no way to get a hold of me because there's no cell phone service there. You make some pretty lengthy discussion, you know, because you are in fact going somewhere where there's not going to be the ability to reach someone.
Right.
You know, and I haven't been in a situation in which, you know, it's been you know, I'm married, I have children with this person or whatever, but you know, I am in fact telling them, look, I'm not going to have cell phone service, you know, and I've never had to get to the point to where I'm like, if shit hits the fan, you need to contact so and so, they'll relay
Right.
the message here and they'll do this, you know, like I've never gotten there, but I have in situations where I knew that I would not be able to contact my lover and that, you know, they wouldn't be able to get a hold of me, and or, you know, I would be drinking or taking substances. That is a lengthy conversation that you should have ahead of time. You should let them know, hey, these are my intentions, this is what I plan to be doing,
Right.
you know, in case something like this does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. There's a communication there that's very different than just falling off the grid and them not being able to get a hold of you. I also feel
Yeah.
that it's important to say that if she was actually having abdominal issues and there was a real issue, she should have called 911 or gone to the hospital. Knowing that he was
Yeah.
4 hours away, blowing his phone up's not going to do anything. So
Right.
without reading forward in the email, I don't know if she actually went to the hospital or not, but if he cut his trip short and came home and there was nothing wrong with her and she just had a tummy ache, that's not something to blow the phone up with. Like, you knew he was going out of town for the weekend.
Yeah.
You should
And
have given him
that would
space.
borderline on like some manipulative behavior too.
Absolutely. Absolutely
Yeah,
would.
sure.
And it would make it so that if there's actually nothing wrong and he did go out and get drunk and she was unable to get a hold of him, she now has an ability to make him come home. She can
Right,
guilt trip
and
him into leaving. Right.
yeah, that'll stretch into the future when she knows that the last time she did that, it got this result, thus making it to where more than likely he won't want to go out and do that in the future. He'll be fearful to do that in the future, you know,
Yep.
and she will be more prone to do that in the future.
That's it. That is it. All right. So he said, I immediately called her and asked her what was going on. She said she was having abdominal pain. So I got in the car and I started driving home. It was a 4-hour drive. When I got home, so he would have gotten there about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. She was still pretty upset with me because she couldn't get a hold of me when she needed me from 11:30 to 2:30 and had to call her mom to come and help with our daughter. Okay. So that's a problem. But you could have also taken your daughter to the hospital with you. She could have taken the daughter to the hospital.
Yeah.
She refused to go to the doctors even after I got home. And once things settled, we talked about her not being able to get a hold of me, and I apologized for getting too drunk that night. She was also upset because she suspected I didn't answer her because I was cheating on her. See, now that's the issue. And she manipulated the situation to get you to come home, because if she hadn't gone to the doctor after all of this, she wasn't that upset. Like, she wasn't that sick. This is a purely manipulation.
Yeah, neither was her tummy.
Right. I told her I didn't. I had called my old roommates and asked them on my drive home, in addition to telling them to lock their doors because I no longer had a key. I told her that I was willing to call my roommates and have them tell her what happened, which was I got too drunk and they had to carry me out. She said no. I told her I wouldn't be going out drinking like that anymore, and I didn't. If I drank, I drank at home. After a year of being home, she was going stir crazy and wanted to go back and forth. Back to work. She found a job part-time, and we're lucky at the time to be able to work alternate days. So there was a problem. He found a solution and then adhered to the solution of the problem. So there's an honor in that. Like, even if, you know, she's not happy with the situation, he's still not drinking out in public the way that he was. He's only doing it at home. That's a win. Like, in that situation, I would view that as an even compromise.
Yeah. Oh, well, notice too, we're not talking about a trend.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about, like, you know, an endless campaign of drinking, like, you know, going out and drinking with your friends. This seemed like, you know, it was a trip. You know, it was people he hadn't seen in a long time. He went out with every intention to have a blast with people he hadn't seen, they were celebrating.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't some, every weekend thing, So he adhered to it. He did a great thing, but also that was like a one-time celebration thing.
Right.
Yeah, there should be a little bit of forgiveness
I
towards him
I,
about that.
I definitely think so. I still don't think that he should have allowed it to go as far as he did, knowing that he had a wife and kid at home.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
not having the ability to answer the phone. Like he could have, he could have been
that's-
like, from 10:30 to 2:30, he wasn't responding. At like 9:45, he could have been like, babe, I'm fucking hammered. I'm going to go pass out. I don't know. Like my nights, I drank way too much. I love you. I'm going to bed. Right. Something.
It comes out drunk
thumbs.
Still, you tried, man.
Yeah.
You tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, on my days off, I tried to take on extra tasks around the house or run a bath for her when she came home. These little things that I thought would make a difference. The baths were never taken, and the tasks around the house were either unnoticed or done incorrectly. Our sex life was based off of her drinking, which was infrequent. If she decided to drink then, I might get lucky. I think it's very important to note here that there was no in-between with intimacy. It was sex or nothing at all.
What do you think about situations in which case the person that you're with has to be drunk to touch you?
I'm good. I would leave that situation.
Yeah.
Physical touch is a big one for me. Knowing that is one of my major love languages. If my wife stopped touching me, it would start to degrade the intimacy levels on all facets. And intimacy is not just a sexual thing. Us laying in bed at nighttime and like, talking shit to each other and laughing and giggling and, laying on the couch holding hands or dancing in the kitchen. Like that's all very intimate to me. Shit, even our car rides where we're having, in-depth conversations about life and spiritual shit. Like that's all very intimate to me. But a lot of that does have a physical tone to it even still. So like if you had to be inebriated to give me attention, I would feel like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
That would be a lot.
You know that there's men out there that make that connection, and next thing you know, they're just feeding this partner of theirs alcohol all the time, creating an alcoholic.
Yeah, or cheating.
Yeah. And also it's like this, it seems like my partner gets horny when she's drunk. Like, man, that would kind of, I want to go out with the girls, what would that do to your head?
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't allow that to happen. There's no way, because you wouldn't be able to trust her.
Yeah, that would plant a seed of doubt in your head pretty quick.
Yep.
Now, is this the person he said that he was with, or do you think we're talking? He started this email with.
I think this is his future ex-wife. I think this is the chick he's currently married to. He said, before I knew it, she became pregnant with our son, and due to a complication with the pregnancy, intercourse was off the table for nearly the entirety of it.
It's good. Usually it's good for it.
Yeah, normally it is. With our current house being small, we moved in with our parents and put the house up for sale. During this time, I changed jobs again to try to find a career instead of a job, jumping and landing at the company I still work at today. To do so, I had to work as a contractor until I was hired directly by the company. The insurance provided the contracting agency was obscene, but my wife expecting the only plan with prenatal care was, of course, the most expensive. In order to cover the cost of the insurance, I would work 12 to 13-hour days every day I was scheduled. We had open OT, thankfully, back then. Again, I was working 60 hours a week to provide for my family and to try to purchase a home. Once my son was born in 2019, I still worked full-time and took care of the babies where I could while we were house hunting. Unknown to me at the time, the fact that I could sleep through my son crying spawned resentment in my wife toward me. Well, I mean, if you're working 60 hours a week, of course you can fucking sleep through that. Like your body is shutting down. You need a break.
Yeah, you're exhausted.
Yeah. December 23rd, 2019, I got hired on, including benefits and paid holidays. I was finally able to breathe again. Well, figuratively, as COVID was becoming a major thing. We spent that winter at our parents', and in March of 2020, we found a nice house that was quite a bit larger with a fenced-in yard close to our parents'. The divide in our relationship became more and more apparent when we moved into the new house as my responsibilities around the house grew more and more. We were still working alternate days for the most part, but with her still only working part-time, I began feeling neglected as all my time went to either work, yard work, or housework. I tried to set up multiple trips for just her and I to get away for the night, but she always said no. I told her how I was feeling. She told me it wasn't me, that it was her being touched out from the kids or from being overstimulated throughout the day.
Mm.
So if you are trying to plan weekend getaways or an overnight trip, if your person is overstimulated and touched out, why the fuck would they tell you no? You don't have to have sex. That night away just could be a decompression. You could have sex the next morning. It could be, when you get back before things get back to resume life. Like if you're only trying to make a trip so that you can get some pussy, like that's a different conversation. But if Peaches is stressed out, like I will, draw a bath or tell her to go take a bath or take the kids somewhere or, we need a break. I don't understand how she would turn that down.
Yeah. Allowing the decompression is pretty important.
Yeah.
Do you think like that we've had similar emails where people have, it's just been like a telltale sign that they're not with it anymore.
Yeah.
Like the person they're with, they've lost touch with. And whenever there's things like this happening, the pushing away, the pushback, it's actually the first telltale sign that more than likely this is going to fall apart, at least from previous emails and a lot of the To Be Better podcast.
Yeah. I think that the number one thing is that people don't like their person anymore. And they stay because of obligation, or they think it'll be easier to stay, it's cheaper to keep, or whatever the situation may be. The reality is people put their best foot forward when they first meet somebody, and they try to find all the things that they have in common and how they can mesh and to build a relationship, and they really put in the effort. And then they secure their person, and they've got their person locked down, and they've got the relationship, and they're living together, and now they don't have to try anymore. Because at the end of the day, you guys are going to bed at the same time, you guys are in the same bed, and you're just living in that roommate phase of the routine of everything, but you're not doing the things that makes you connect to your person. And then you find yourself becoming resentful towards them. And it happens all the fucking time, dude. People genuinely just don't like their spouse.
Yeah. Do you think this guy was trying to use the trip for some romance more than he was decompression?
I gotta be honest. I don't think that it matters what he was trying to use the trip for. The fact that she's always stressed out with the kids and he tried is better than nothing, because most men don't do that. Most men get to the point where they're like, fuck it, I'm not even going to bother, because she's just going to say no. She's always got a headache. She's always tired. She's always touched out. She'll let me know eventually when she wants it. And then there's 6 months goes by with no sex.
Yeah.
You can't do that shit.
Well, I was just going to say good on him for at least, even like throwing like financial like impairment towards it, like trying to go into the hole, in order to get her to a point to where she's comfortable enough seeing him. That's painful, man. It just, at that point, what do? You feel like you're in the hardest of rock and a hard place, man.
Yeah. You got to start dating your person again. If any of you are in the roommate phase, the best thing that you can do is go to dinner. Like, leave your fucking phones in the car and have conversations about things that are not honey-do list or like the necessities of life. How many people out there are in relationships that don't know what their person's current favorite song is? Because you don't ask anymore. Like, you think that when you asked what their favorite song was, in 1999 when you started dating, that that's just gonna be their favorite song forever. How you need to have the conversations. What hobbies, what TV shows are you watching right now? If you could go anywhere in the world right now and spend a week, where would it be? Like, all of these conversations matter because your person is ever evolving and changing, and so are you.
Exactly. So. Yeah, exactly. It'd be hard not to know what my favorite song is, because it would be blaring out of my stereo system, a good majority of the day. I'm one of those people that can listen to a song on repeat, annoyingly so.
Same.
Same.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
He then went on to write, on the occasional date night without the kids, we would have her mom watch them, and the entire date, minus the obligatory selfie for her social media, was plastered to her phone. I brought it up multiple times, and she always said she was checking on the kids, or that her mom was asking us when we would be home. We were almost never out more than 2 hours. Most of the time it was less than that. Nothing ever happened after we picked up the kids and put them to bed, and this was our usual date night. She always wanted me to lay in bed with her until she fell asleep. But at this point in our relationship, my frustration and anxiety kept me awake, so I started staying up and watching TV or going to the garage and sitting with my thoughts. Whenever I brought up the planning some sexy time, there was nothing but promises without follow through, or just being downright rejected. This was my new low. I was a roommate. Even if we were intimate after, it just felt so hollow, like she was mentally checked out, which would make me feel disgusted with myself. I told her how unhappy I was, and the solution was counseling, which I'm all about. We would do our sessions, and then facade would break after a month the first time. Then we fell back into the same routine. Over the years, she was going to school off and on and reclused herself to the kids and their activities. She told me she had lost her sense of self after having the kids, so I encouraged her to do some of the things that she enjoyed before having kids, like running or going to dinner with some friends. She said that she felt guilty leaving the kids and almost never went out.
Reinforcement. Reinforce. There's no need to feel guilty. It's healthy.
There's a very real thing about mothers becoming a mother and it being their identity. And the only thing that they ever have to talk about is their kids. And like not their husbands, not their jobs. Like it just becomes that their entire identity is being a mother. And when you do that, it's hard to have friends and to go out and do things because it doesn't align with what you view yourself as.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you remain a multifaceted spirit, because just being a mother or just being a wife or just being a husband is not it.
Yeah. But being a mother is a great honor.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly beautiful title to carry. And like seeing as this happens to a lot of women, you'd think that the women would want to like merge together, like there would be more people feeling that same way, or more mothers specifically feeling that same way, that would inevitably find each other. But there's also the full-time element of being a mother.
Yeah.
It's rough. That's tough.
He then wrote, I hit a breaking point one day after getting into a little trouble at work and felt the same time estranging myself from my narcissistic biological mother. What sense of self I had was completely lost. I had recently picked up a book on being a medium, and something told me to meditate, which I had never tried before. I cracked open the book and read the basic breathing meditation and tried it. What happened next isn't something I can properly describe. So in short, God gave me the embrace of love. It felt like my whole body and mind was whole, loved and good. She told me to love myself more, to look at what I've overcome in order to be where I am today. I opened my tear-filled eyes, feeling so light and happy. It was at this moment I had never felt the need to touch alcohol again. Started viewing things with wider eyes, and I could see the patterns emerging from my past that I thought love was.
He said God was a she for him, didn't he?
Yep. He said we didn't argue like ever, not once until we split. We talked about how we made each other feel when shit happens, and if it was on me, I tried to make sure I didn't do it again. I always wanted her to open up and talk to me about herself, how she was feeling, to be her person like she was mine, but she never did. I got a promotion at work where I had gotten almost 10,000 bump in pay. It was salaried, and best of all, it was remote. The other side of the coin is I would have to work Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and my son wasn't in school yet. My daughter, I would have to drop off and pick up from school. This was conflicting because her hours overlapped mine. I'm fortunate and grateful to work for a company that allows me to be an active father and understands the family needs of the employee over the profit line. She wasn't enthusiastic about anything. Even during the interview process, it was nothing but negative statements about how I'm not going to be able to do it. Great job, baby, was what I got. In an even monotone voice. I got the same response when I got my VA disability back pay, which was north of $15,000. I wanted to plan an actual trip for us this time, so I did the research and asked her mom to watch the kids for her birthday weekend. She still said she didn't want to go. I felt part of my soul crack when I knew she would never be capable of loving the way I needed to be loved. Damn. Not everybody's meant to be together, man.
For sure.
One day when I couldn't hold in the heartache another second longer, I broke down and started sobbing. I told her again that I wasn't happy, and again she said the solution was counseling, but this time on an app. I give the program credit that it's a good content if both parties are vested. When it came to setting aside the time for us to talk in the beginning, she was good about it. After the third week, she would always need to reschedule. I stopped trying because she showed me I wasn't worth the 15 to 30 minutes to talk about to talk, but her phone was when she was lying in bed. I stopped trying because she showed me I wasn't worth the 15 to 30 minutes to talk, but her phone
But her
was,
phone was.
yeah, when she was laying
Yeah.
in bed. Okay.
As if she's got enough time to like sit and scroll on her phone, the same device that she would be using for
Right.
this counseling, but
Right.
she can't use it towards the embetterment of their relationship.
Right.
Yeah. That's hard. That's tough.
He wrote, God's voice in my head saying, is this loving yourself? I began working on myself more than I ever before. At the time, I was almost 200 pounds at my heaviest. I bought resistance bands and started working out at home. That way I could take care of my kids and not need to go to the gym. The more I worked out, the better I felt, challenging myself to do 5 more push-ups every day of the month. I think by the end of the self-challenge, I was up to 300 plus push-ups a day. Several months later, the same heartache continued to plague me, although I was healthier than I had been in a very long time. I wanted to stay together for my kids, and it was my dream as a kid to give my kids that dynamic. That is, you can't provide a healthy environment for your children if your children are living in an unhealthy environment. I understand the want to keep your family together because, I mean, it's an honorable thing to do, but if your situation is fucked up and your kids are growing up in a fucked up situation, they're going to have fucked up situations because you are modeling what the relationship is supposed to look like. And if you're going above and beyond and trying to do everything that you can do for this woman and she's not reciprocating those things, your daughter is going to learn that she doesn't have to reciprocate, and your son is going to learn that he's a fucking doormat. And he's going to live his life as such because that's what was modeled for him growing up. He then wrote, then all at once I felt the fracture that began years ago rip the fuck open. It was the last time I was going to break down about this. I made damn sure of that. I was faithful throughout our marriage, and the thought of cheating never really hit me, but the attention I had been getting made me feel alive. And I knew it was a slippery slope. Later that night, I told her I wanted to separate. I didn't know if we needed space away from each other to try to mend things or if I just needed my own space away from her. Due to lack of housing and wanting the best for our children, I stayed at the house until I found an apartment. We told them we were getting an extra place to come play while I'm at work and do sleepovers. To ease the blow, as it were. We've always been excellent at communicating about the kids, and we both understand they come first outside of our bullshit. And for that, I'm grateful. We decided to go to counseling again. As much as it sucked, I wanted to make things work because I did love her and we were together for a little over 10 years.
Do you think the right thing to do is tell your children a fabrication of the truth in that situation?
No, I don't. I think that was a bold-faced lie, and what I think that they should have been honest about it. They don't need to go know the details, but if dad is moving out of the house and is not sleeping there with mom, and the kids are going back to mom's every single night, if that's the way that it's working, they're going to see that something's not right. It's just easier to tell them.
Yeah, for sure.
The onslaught of messages following me asking to separate revealed the things she had been resentful to me about throughout our relationship. Everything was my fault. I was the reason she couldn't finish school. I was the reason she didn't have a career. I was the scapegoat. I do have faults in this marriage, of which I accept full responsibility and understand that these things I did impact how she felt about me. This was something entirely different. It was like she was unloading all of the things she hadn't done in her life on me when all I ever tried to do was support and encourage her. Once everything came out, I knew if the things she held against me then impacted us this significantly, then there would be no way to overcome this with her now. I also noticed some of the stuff she brought up that had nothing to do with me or our relationship, but from the relationship prior. At the time of me asking to separate, she was still working part-time. And it was also my fault that she had to get a full-time job to pay for the house I bought for us. In the meantime, I paid and provided for everything for the house until I moved into my apartment in November. She found a full-time job and began working. I told her I would continue to pay the bills until she could get on her feet financially. She never disclosed how much her job was paying. She just said it was comparable to your salary. So then, I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter. If she's making the same amount of money you are, it's not needed for you to pay for her shit anymore. My aunt from Wisconsin bought a house in the area. Her cousin, who was handy capable, and her daughter all lived together. My uncle lived there as well until his passing this year. Once everything happened, I went to the only place I felt safe, my aunt's house. I'd been visiting them just to get out of the house and to let them read the messages. I didn't need to defend myself from anything. All the facts are there. I don't know why you let them read the messages. Why drag them into your ugly breakup? I don't see the point in that. I actually disagree with that vehemently. I think that you bringing all of that to other people's doorsteps, like I understand the need to want to talk to somebody and have somebody there, but like, I think that's too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this says something about being able to process your shit on your own. But again, I also understand the need to have somebody to bounce shit off of, or do you think I'm wrong in this situation?
Yeah.
But you should be able to do that by expressing your feelings articulately versus going, here, read this. Am I wrong? I don't know.
Well, I'm sure there's extenuating circumstances, you know, in which case, like messages can act as a testament to truth,
Absolutely.
you know. But in this case, you know, it feels like you're more so trying to get people on your side,
Right.
which could create a divide with someone in which you are still, you're not any longer engaged, or you're working on being married, but there's still engagement when it comes to you're going to have your family at times intermingle with her at minimum.
Yep.
You know, picking kids up, or you know, or like whatever have you, and also like the teachings that she is going to send the children back with to your house and to the family. You should try to maintain a good standing at all costs.
Yeah. I agree.
You know, not turn family against the other side.
Yeah. Create a negativity bias. It creates a lot of problems in the future.
Oh, for sure. That kid becomes a game of tug of war. You know, you're going to create a lot of internalized trauma and unnecessary baggage for this poor kid.
He went on to write, I taught myself how to be super good with Excel to get better at my job before a promotion and created a spreadsheet to lay out all the bills for both homes. Looking ahead, I noticed I wouldn't be able to handle 2 households for more than 3 months. It was mid-December when I told her I had a money concern I would need to talk with her about. I let her know that in March I would start needing her to begin splitting some of the bills with me. She fucking lost it. You would have thought I'm setting her out on the side of the road by the way that she was reacting. I was overdone at this point. I hit the fuck this moment. I've always been understanding and tried my best to brush off the messages still insulting my character, but this pushed my buttons a little too much. I didn't respond to her messages knowing we had a therapy session that weekend and would much rather bring it up then. I gave her 94 days to get ready to split the bills for her shit because I'm going to make sure my children are taken care of. Our session was the weekend before Christmas. It was heated to say the least, especially when it came to her bringing up any kind of money. Since I was the one paying for everything and she had been getting not just one paycheck from her part-time job that she still had, but now her full-time job as well. By the time I got back to my apartment, she had texted me saying that that I was uninvited from her dad's house where everyone used to meet for Christmas and that she was filing for divorce. The only response I sent was that she would be responsible for paying the bills come February since January was conveniently already paid. Being unprepared for having to set up my own Christmas for my kids was heartbreaking for me. I was already stretched as thin as I could be with money. My aunt gave me some and a small tree with some decorations. This allowed me to have a small Christmas in my apartment on Christmas Eve, since that was my day. I should have spent Christmas with my aunt and her family, but I sat alone. I really hope you got a lawyer. I really hope you got a lawyer. He wrote, I was furious that she would rob the kids of Christmas with their dad. In the end, it's about me more than about them. Christmas time and the New Year's always reminds me of losing my dad. So it's a hard time of year regardless for me. My mind was my new battlefield. She then invited me to her dad's house on New Year's Day since she knew it was a hard time of the year. Don't worry, I said no. I found psilocybin mushrooms to be one of the most helpful things when you have a heart and courage to investigate the darkest parts of your life. Most people, I think, would say I've had bad trips, but the uncomfortable things I experienced were nothing but reflections of the things that were within me. There was a sense of peace after a stillness. This peace here is worth fighting for. I fucking love that. I am such a huge fan of sacred sacraments and like people using this as a way to heal.
Yeah, the way he said that was perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you can tell he's not using it as a party drug.
Yeah, and like the inner reflection that he's getting from it, and especially the some people would say I was having bad trips, but I, in fact, was looking at the darkest, sections of my heart and my mind and traumas. That's how they should be used
Yeah. And there was
for
a sense
sure.
of peace after, a stillness. This peace here is worth fighting for. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, they can humble you. I mean,
Oh
remember,
yeah.
the episode loss of a brother.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't the mushrooms that did it. It was the thoughts behind the mushrooms and taking them.
Yeah.
It was that's what that was. They will humble you quicker than anything ever, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We have 1 month until we go back to ceremony.
I'm going.
Are you? Did you book it already?
No.
Oh, you should probably do that.
I'll text you after this.
Okay. We actually just talked to the facilitator this morning because one of the other people who went to Costa Rica with us booked. There is currently 9 at the time of this recording, 9 people going, and out of those 9 people, 5 of them are part of the To Be Better community, which I think is just fucking epic. So
is it like folks from the Discord? Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor is going in October.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would know the names. I also don't want to put their names out there, but Taylor is going in October. Buff Bell will be going in October too. So we've already booked October too. So
yeah. She's the baker, ain't she?
What's that?
Isn't she the baker?
Buff Bell?
Yeah.
No, Buff Bell is the bodybuilder.
Is she?
On the Fritz Baking is the baker. That's Abby. We call her Apple Fritter.
Such a awesome community of it's a ragtag group of so many different walks of life. It's absolutely amazing.
That community is one of the most beautiful things that I've ever been a part of.
That you created. You provided the soil for the seed, bro.
I planted the seed, but the community took care of the garden and it is growing because of it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a beautiful thing watching everyone come together on their own, naturally.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't there, they'd still be chatting.
No, they are all the time. There's always a conversation going on in the Discord. It's really cool though, because we've traveled all over the world with some of these people. Taylor has gone on every vacation that we've gone on. She's going to probably come and stay at our house in October after ceremony for a couple of weeks because she's doing the van life thing. So, that Discord community is building real life relationships, like amazing, incredible relationships.
Yeah.
So
one of my favorites, Cricket.
Yeah.
We read one of her emails at one point.
Yeah.
I imagine her like an actual cricket.
Yeah.
Like,
like Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. To meet her and she's this big, but just full of spunk. Yeah.
He then went to write on, I wanted to call out my wins post-separation since that's just as important as the losses, no pun intended. I began living again, faults and all. Little by little, I started to laugh more. I started to do the things I wanted to, but she was never interested in it. In March, I got a puppy who's helped me get more social, which I desperately needed. I weigh 148 pounds at 6 foot tall. I'm probably around 7 to 10% body fat.
60 pounds shedded.
Yeah.
Gotta be shredded, my friend.
Yeah. Yep.
Feels good, huh?
I couldn't imagine being under 200 pounds. I have been over 200 pounds since 5th grade.
Yeah. 200 pounds. I look emaciated, man.
Yeah. The best I've ever, the lowest I've been since 5th grade was 202. And I was pretty fucking yoked.
Yeah.
That was the cover of my photo of the book that I wrote. I was 202 pounds in that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got some heavy ass bones, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote, I'm probably around 7 to 10% body fat. I've planned a cross-country treasure hunt with my kids out to Yellowstone. I've been a much more patient and attentive dad when my kids are with me. I've recently been put in a position to get another promotion, but I probably won't get that hefty pay bump like last time, but fingers crossed. I'm in the process, thanks to my dad's side of the family, of looking to buy another house so my kids will have a stable home for the future. Life is complicated and beautiful. In a strange way, grateful for the things I went through. I'm more confident than I've ever been. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm a fucking awesome dad. I loved that. And I love the man that I see in the mirror. That motherfucker has been through some shit and is still kind to others. I've never had to.
You're gonna make me cry too, dude.
Yeah, it is what it is. It happens. Sorry, let it out. All the cool kids are doing it. I've never had to be on the state aid or food stamps. I've never lived in another trailer or place without heat. My bills are paid and I have money in the savings account. I understand I carry a shit ton of trauma with me, but it doesn't have to be given to my children. The last burden I'll carry is stopping the cycles of abuse that have been on repeat in my family for generations. I cannot change what's happened, but I can be a student of my own life and learn from what I've been through. I've been journaling, painting, hiking, and going to the gym to interact with people because I'm still remote.
A student of life.
Yeah.
Two big things that stick out to me is he started doing like inner reflection meditation, and he started responsibly utilizing like earth medicine.
Yeah.
Listen to things blooming and blossoming. Like it's tremendous, man. I think a lot of people could benefit from, I'm guessing, the end of the story with this fella.
Yeah.
Responsibly.
Right. Everything has cycles though. You know what I mean? And like, you have to go through periods of ugly growth to get to the point where you can then teach or provide shade and shelter. You know what I mean? And that's just the way that it goes. He said in here, I carry a lot of trauma, but it doesn't have to be given to my children. It doesn't. And he also said that in the previous paragraph, maybe it wasn't the previous paragraph. Anyways, he said that he's where he is because of everything that he went through. I can be a student of my own life and learn from what I've been through. That's how he worded it. I'm grateful for all my trauma. Every ugly thing that's ever happened to me has made me the man that I am, and I fucking love who I am.
It takes a long time to get there.
Dude, it takes a lot of forgiveness.
Absolutely. Preach that shit till the day I die, man.
Yeah.
Like it really does. Failure, hardship is the greatest teacher. It teaches you love, kindness, respect, whenever it's digested correctly.
Right.
That in itself is an art form. It takes a long time to get to that point. But once you learn to stomach it, once you learn to, stare at the reflection that you see in the mirror and not be consumed by all of the negatives that you've adorned to this world, when you truly learn from them, when you step back from them, and whenever you use them as the catalyst for change, that is an absolute art form. That is how you make the world a more beautiful place.
Yeah. Yep. And that makes you the mentor. You know what I mean? That puts you in a place of elder. Like you can really help other people who are going through things that you went through because you went through them. That's one of the issues that I have with therapy on a personal level. Like I'm a big advocate for people going to therapy, but I can't fuck with a therapist who's only book smart.
Yeah.
Like if you've never been Baker acted and never tried to eliminate yourself, you don't have a way to relate to me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it feels like. You have theory.
Yeah. So does the actual textbook, like therapy session. I want every therapist I have to be like the therapist from Good Will Hunting.
There you go.
That's what I want. That dude took the time to get to know, what was his name? Will?
Yeah.
Will. It took the time to get to know him, personalized the experience, because he knew there was no getting through to that person,
right.
Without that. And that's a beautiful thing. And that lets the patient know that you don't just send me out the door and stop thinking about me. I'm in your head, whenever you leave and when we go our separate ways, you do spend additional time thinking about me and how to help me, which makes you want to be more attentive in those sessions.
Right.
It makes you want to listen more keenly to what that person is telling you. It makes you value and respect the things that you're getting from these therapy sessions. That's how it should be. I've said this in previous episodes. I've actually had doctors who I believe were meant to be snowboarders.
Yeah.
And it's so evident that person it's not that they have it out for you. It's not like they want to abandon, like you and or whatever. It's just they don't necessarily think that what you are going through really is anything more than what they are going through. It's a trauma measure. That person wants to be on the slopes, not sitting there giving you prescriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, I've been journaling, painting, hiking, and going to the gym and interact with people. I read that. But my focus, that's not my focus. Living is my focus and being the best dad I can be for my kids. If someone comes along to add to that at some point, cool. Till then, I'm cool with being a 34-year-old, soon to be divorced, goofy ass dad. I don't know if this email was actually in response to that episode that was listed, because I got to be honest, I couldn't even tell you what was in that episode because he said it was season 3, episode 18. We are recorded all the way up to episode 36 already of season 3. So like that was probably recorded in February or March for me. So like we're way off on times. But if this was his side of the story, I now feel like I need to go back and watch that episode to see how different this is or how it correlates.
Yeah.
I wish people would write their emails in together, or like, hey, I'm going to email the To Be Better podcast. Cool. I will too. And like they send in their stories so that we can actually break it down, because this would probably paint a very different picture of a couple's life than what was read.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I would think it's safe to say that probably at this point there was no ability to work in tandem.
No, yeah. I'm sure. I don't think this was the reality is that's probably not his ex. I mean, unless she was a fan of the podcast and he knew it, and that's how he knew the podcast. But dude is fucking doing the thing, man. To be able to look at yourself in the mirror and like not despise the person looking back is fucking huge. And it takes a whole lot of growth to get there, especially when you have the trauma that you have as a child. Like there's a lot of, I'm not ever going to be good enough. And then having a wife that treated you that way, like it just compounds.
And a mother.
Yeah. Yep. That you were always, second, third place to.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say that's arguably the worst part. I mean, that sets in motion your relations with all of your future females. People say that, you marry someone that reminds you of your mother. That's what is nurturing.
Yeah.
This guy's lucky he didn't fall in love with someone that, was exactly like his mother. Because his mom, no offense, bud, sounds like a big old jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use any harsher words than that, because even if my mom sucked, someone called her something nasty, I'd still, hey, that's my mama.
Right. But you know what? That proves the point of what I said earlier about you being, you end up dating your parents. Like you end up following in the same footsteps. So all of this shit that he dealt with his mother, he ended up dealing with it in his marriage, and now his kids were seeing that. So it is good that he split all this shit up. And hopefully when he finds another woman, he ends up finding somebody that treats him the way that my wife treats me, because I wouldn't, dude, if it wasn't for my wife being who my wife is, I would have never gotten in another relationship again. I'd have just stayed single. I enjoyed my freedom. I enjoyed being able to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it, not having to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that I don't have to answer now. I'm just like, hey, I kind of want to, and she's like, okay, go do your thing, be happy. Like,
Well, the chances of him finding the right person have gone up because he did a couple things that are incredibly healthy.
Yeah.
He decompartmentalized the things that were breaking apart his marriage. He tried hard as hell to bring relief and comfort, to somebody who pretty much just ultimately checked out. He stayed faithful, and then once that was over, he started inner reflection work. He started working on himself. He started finding his strengths again, liking who he is, believing in himself again, and now he's comfortable being alone. In the meantime,
yep.
He doesn't need somebody to foster the hole that's been made, arguably, is a hole even there? I think that if anything, if he was trying to fill a hole, he'd realize halfway through that there is no hole, and he's just building on top of an already forged heart.
Yeah.
All of these things combined, I think, are going to allow him to find the right partner because he knows better and he knows himself.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Beautiful thing, man.
Yeah. I tell people all the time on the podcast that you should be comfortable being alone, and like you should actually spend time alone before getting into another relationship, because when you learn who you are on that level and you are comfortable at that level, you no longer settle for shit. And you're not looking, because if you're looking for a relationship, somebody gives you some attention, you just go for it because that's what you want. When you're not looking and you're happy and you're content, you're very, very selective, and you're not going to just settle for any, fucking Tom, Dick, or Harry that comes into your life. You're going to be very intentional with the way that you live and court and date. It's huge. I wish more people did that shit.
This guy seems to have gone 10,000 hours of suffering mastery. You know what I mean? He has come out a master of the suffering. Therefore, he knows how to ease the suffering. Like mastery is an all around thing. The 10,000 hour rule. Wasn't it Dali who made that statement?
I don't remember who actually did the 10,000 hours. I know that that's a 40-hour work week for 5 years.
Yeah,
it's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this guy went through at least 10,000 hours of suffering and hardship and mastered it and came out and now knows how to not go back. Beautiful. Round of applause. Everybody in the comment section, give it up for this guy. What a hero.
That's funny. All right, dude. Well, that puts us at our episode. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, leave a comment. It doesn't matter what it is. You can just say I enjoyed the episode if you want, but it drives the algorithm. We're trying to make this podcast actually, reach and help men. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. So share this shit put it on your Facebook page. Stick it on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you guys could give us a little leg up, that would be great. There's still a lot of people, who very much so know the to be better aspect of it and the good wives aspect of it. Voice of the Broken is still picking up momentum and speed. And we want to be there for men all over the world, to give them a little bit of positive reinforcement in some down negative times, man.
Yeah,
we want their stories to be heard, and we want people to learn from the things that we have all been through mutually as a group.
I mean, that's how we're supposed to learn, though. It's communal. You know what I mean? And we are building that community. So for those of you guys who don't know, we have a Discord. There's a men's group in that Discord as well, private and public. There's a paid men's group. I just want to give acknowledgement to my guys right now. We just finished Q2, and Q2 is finances, and a lot of the guys did a lot of self audits, and a couple of the guys have managed to move so much money around that some of them have opened businesses, and others are expanding their business and cutting things out and planning vacations and doing the things. So shout out to my guys this month. You guys are crushing it. We see you. I'm proud of you guys. So.
Yeah. So also, we have done our first episode of the Near Death Diary podcast. It was pretty good. We've also expanded that into all things death related, which has been fun. So we put out a request, hey, anybody out there got any like paranormal, because what?
Speaking of paranormal, right? I know that you guys have all the fucking creepy shit up where you live. How willing would you be to allow Peaches to go on a ghost hunt with you? Like if we bought some like EMF detectors and shit and flew up there, would you take her on a ghost hunt?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's primitive by all means. We were looking, but it's the whole thing all over again in any sense. There's name brand stuff. I'm currently going through other ghost hunting channels and trying to find the nice stuff that they have, because I want to be able to. There's like there's the twins that do the paranormal ghost hunting stuff. Do you remember their names? They have some high tech stuff. I'd really like to get that. Now the stuff we have, I mean, there used to be this school up the road that me and Cody would go to all the time, and we got some footage like of it. This school has burned down 2-3 times, like something like that, with never any foul play or anything. But it's in the town of Moxahala, which is very well known for having a lot of native burial grounds and things like that. A lot of people said it was kind of built on a native burial ground. We go up there and it's torn down now, but we're still waiting to go up and just check the grounds. We get a baby crying through our like electric magnetic or phenomenon. And every time, and when the building was still up, we would go upstairs because we would hear it. We go all the way up the corridor. We'd go into the room. It would get louder and louder. And as soon as we got into that room, it would be downstairs.
Wow.
And like clear as day, baby crying. So it does pick up some stuff, which is strange considering it channels through radio stations just rapidly. right? And certain things pop out at you. I've never been listening to the radio and heard a baby crying in any way, shape, or form, but it happens every time we go there.
Hmm.
And it's creepy. But there's a ton of haunted locations here. Athens is like known as being the 13th most haunted city in the world. There's a lot of strange phenomenon that happens around. We're only 40 minutes from Point Pleasant, where the Mothman is. Burr Oak, tons of Bigfoot sightings. We've had Bigfoot encounters. If you guys want to come up, that would be freaking awesome.
Dude, I don't fuck with the ghost thing. I'll go.
Come on. Peaches always got the gusto, man.
Yeah, she's a badass, dude. Fucking upside down zip lining, jumping off waterfalls and shit. But when it comes to paranormal stuff, like I can do serial killer shit all day long. Ghosts and demons, I don't fuck with that shit, bro.
Yeah, I mean, God, this is a map of all of the haunted shit, bro. It's too bright to see, but just looking at this, I already on this first little bit of not even opening up this map, I can clearly see 100 places.
That's crazy.
Like, yeah,
we'll have to put something together because she really wanted to do that with somebody else that we were working with for a little while, and it just never fell through. And buying equipment, like I'll buy whatever equipment we need. I don't give a fuck about that. It's a tax write off. In its content, so I'll buy whatever the fuck we need to buy, and then fly up there for a weekend.
Yeah,
or
so
drive up.
I take it she's an avid believer then, or is she trying to, like, I guess, prove that it is real?
I don't know what she's doing. That's a Peaches question. She's out of her fucking mind. That's the way I view that. You guys want to go hang around and like fucking haunted anything? I don't want that shit coming home with me, bro. Last thing I need is wake up at 3:00 in the morning to take a piss and have a 4-year-old and like 1850s garments staring at me while I'm going to the bathroom. I'm fucking good.
You're painting the picture, bro.
I know I am.
That thing has no shape or anything. that is you. That is you. Yeah. I've had some serious paranormal experiences. I'm about to tell a story of the Ouija board that we had. Like my mom became Wiccan or pagan spirituality whenever I was like 8. And she was trying to get into the witchy stuff, a lot of candles, a lot of sage, a lot of, trying to get into it. And it was like, oh, well, we're going to do the Ouija board. Gave it to my sister during a slumber party. My sister's right across the hallway from me. Me and my buddy Nick come in. We start taunting it, kick the planchette off there. We're like, cussing at it and stuff. Planchette start flipping, bro, levitating and shit.
Wow.
My mom freaks out, burns the thing. And like the house was never the same. I mean, dude, it was nuts how much shit came out of that thing. And we never closed it. We saged the shit out of the house over and over again. But it was like it only made a temporary like Band-Aid on what was happening there.
Yeah.
And so I've seen it my whole life. And ever since I was, I was on the verge of death, coming back, it's way worse now.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, we went to the graveyard the other day. Me and Cody did, and he's holding the EMF, and he's like, "Here, you want to hold the EMF?" As soon as he put it in my hand, the thing starts screaming. I'm like, like, I mean, it was something. But yeah, if you guys want to do that, I think we could use a little bit of upgraded equipment, and we'll make sure we don't just use it once. We could do multiple stuff. Wouldn't that just be fucking hilarious?
Well, I mean,
better go paranormal.
We could do it whenever we wanted to if we own the equipment. We are our own bosses. We can leave and do whatever the fuck we want. We just need to plan it. You know what I mean? So we have something major planned every month for the rest of the year. But for us to come up for a weekend, like we could literally drive up there in a day, turn around and drive home and we're done. Like it would be nothing. Or even fly up. I'm pretty sure Allegiant flies up there. We could pack a backpack and just fly up for Allegiant and be like $70.
Yeah.
So I'll look into flights. You said Athens?
Yeah, well, I'm in Athens, so that's only an hour away from Columbus. But I just flew from Cincinnati, and it was $400 cheaper to fly to Texas for that Friday the 13th special I did.
Okay.
So like it's a big difference, but that's 3 hours away from me.
Right, but if I can fly there and just get a rental car, I'll drive 3 hours. It's way better than driving the 18 that it would take to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful drive because it's right on the border of Kentucky and parts of West Virginia. So it's like really, really beautiful. It's just all foothills and small mountains the whole time. It's really pretty.
Well, I'm going to send you a link for ceremony when we get off of here on text, you can send me some links for things that we should buy for some paranormal shit, and then I'll start looking into flights to figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah, sweet. I'm gonna plug. We also have a Discord started over here, and we have a Patreon, and the Patreon's doing well. I think we're up to 190 something followers
Nice.
now. And I've been sick for a few days, and I've been working, so I haven't really been putting stuff up for about a week, but it's going really, really well. There's a lot of info that I don't put on TikTok there, and it's also like an archive for all of our nature stuff on TikTok. It's been going really well. People really, really are enjoying it. And there's different tiers in which have different content, and you could find that at Deadeye Two Tongues 740. That's the area code in which we're from. Yeah, and you could also check me out on TikTok, Deadeye Two Tongues, and show us some support and love there. Also, Hellfire Holler for all your herbal supplement needs, if you guys want to check that out. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month to all of you guys out there. Stay strong, brothers.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Stop bitching and get to fixing.
Yeah.